I want to switch this for a second because I know when you're on the Hill, you were at the Intel Committee, but the House has been doing this impeachment probe against Biden. Last week, the media went absolutely nuts that the FBI had arrested, or officials had arrested, this FBI informant who David Weiss, one of the special counsels, had determined had lied and said that Biden had taken a bribe when apparently he'd made up this whole story and fabricated. And now the idea, excuse me, is that, well, that undermines the entire case of House Republicans, to which I thought to myself, well, what about a guy like Tony Bobulinski, who testified and no one has impeached his testimony about the relationship that existed? So where do you think this impeachment stands, and how big of a deal is that arrest for House Republicans?
I mean, it's a big deal in terms of it being a blow to the Department of Justice and the FBI and their continued utilization of undercover sources for political purposes, whether it's Christopher Steele, whether it's all the Russiagate sources, whether it's this new guy. How it impacts Joe Biden's impeachment, to me, is almost irrelevant. You just now, yet again, FBI have been caught using American taxpayer dollars to go after political targets. That, to me, is the big story. That, to me, is the focus. And whether or not this helps or hurts Joe Biden's impeachment, again, to me, is completely irrelevant. What they need to be doing is asking what other political sources were the FBI using, say, in and around January 6th, in and around Donald Trump. We now have the new Russiagate story that shows 26 people in the Trump campaign were targeted. Well, who paid for all that? Were there sources involved with that? Did you use overseas methods? I mean, the amount of corruption at the FBI is immediately connected with all the conversations we're having today about the Trump prosecutions and everything else, because those are all stood up based upon political operatives at the FBI and DOJ utilizing law enforcement for political means. So I think the members of the House have an even bigger lift to do than, say, just a microcosm of Joe Biden's impeachment. I've always said they've got to go after the FBI and DOJ corruption.
All right, so let's get to that, because this story last week, and you alluded to it, blows my mind. And it says sources say U.S. intelligence agency tasked foreign partners with spying on Trump's 2016 campaign. The U.S. intelligence community asked fellow members of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, that's U.S., New Zealand, Australia, London, and Canada.
Yep.
Wow, see, pretty good there.
Yeah.
To surveil Trump's associates and share the intelligence they acquired with U.S. agencies, sources told a small team of independent reporters. And it says British intelligence sources began targeting Trump on behalf of American intelligence agencies, possibly as early as 2015, according to Tuesday's Blockbuster article. Several articles had previously reported that the British Government Communications Headquarters, or GCHQ, had discovered the ties between Trump and the Russian government. Not so, said these reporters, Matt Taibbi and a couple of the others who were familiar with the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence Investigation, your former boss. Quote, in truth, the USIC, that's the intelligence community, asked Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance to surveil Trump's associates and share the intelligence they acquired with U.S. agencies. That's insane. Like, it's almost like, and remember Trump, when I was White House press secretary, you were there, and Trump saying I was spied on and it was all, he's making this stuff up. Now we know it's not only true, it was directed around the globe.
Yeah, look, so for me, as the guy who led the Russiagate investigation and that knows that there's documents that have not been declassified like we had asked about Russiagate, let's just go based on this reporting. I'm glad these guys put this story together, and I'm glad the microscope is back on this, because so many people said, no, that's nonsense. The DOJ and FBI would never do that. The IC would never do that. Well, think again. And why you must ask, did we at Russiagate do anything on this? Well, we actually wrote a 17-page report that Gina Haspel blocked from being released that speaks to Brennan's ICA. And so now you got to ask yourself, why is this report still being blocked? Why are selective journalists, not these guys, others, cheering the blockade of information? If you're a journalist, you would want this out there. And you got to ask yourself, these are the guys that wrote the Nunes memo. If they did the Nunes memo to Brennan's ICA, there's got to be something there to see. So I'm really happy these guys are on the trail. And if we're to believe their reporting, any piece of it alone is illegal, let alone 26 times over. So I think Congress, again, because we don't have any other outlet really except the House majority over there, needs to demand the release of Devin and I's report from the ICA, needs to subpoena everybody involved, Brennan, Gina, Clapper, Comey, whoever, and put the screws to them and ask them in front of the American public. Did you get foreign adversaries to spy on Donald Trump unlawfully while you, the US government, were already spying on Donald Trump unlawfully in 2016? Let's get some answers.
Well, it's funny. You bring up, it says Obama CIA Director John Brennan had identified 26 associates for the Five Eyes to target. Then at that time, and Dan Bongino, credit to him, brought this up, that Gina Haspel was the CIA London chief, right? So she's then under Trump, she becomes the CIA director. Yeah. It seems to me as though they've created this little cabal to protect themselves, to make sure that nothing ever gets discovered.
Well, here's what Dan was talking about, and this is what I put out the other day that Dan was talking about. As CIA station chief, Sean, you know this, she's in charge of everything in the United Kingdom for the United States of America. That's the law. So when the FBI went over there and said, hey, we want to run some ops, we want to bump some people in a bar, we want to talk to this Papadopoulos guy and all that stuff, do you know who have to get permission from? Gina Haspel. So how is it that the London station chief, who authorized the Russiagate investigation, who would later go on to be Trump's CIA director and block the release of the ICA report we did against Brennan's ICA, how is it that she has not been subpoenaed once and asked a single solitary question about why did you launch the illegal Trump Russiagate investigation? Why did you cover it up? And oh, by the way, Sean, do you know where she works today, Gina Haspel? She's the national security advisor at Chris Wray's law firm, where Rod Rosenstein is a named partner with Sally Yates.
I mean, I feel like there's days when like Hollywood couldn't make this crap up.
You couldn't.
No, but I want to read you one other part that I thought was fascinating. It said, unknown details about the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign and raw intelligence related to the IC, the intelligence community surveillance of the Trump campaign, are in a 10-inch binder that Trump ordered to be declassified at the very end of his term. The three journalists stressed that this new information is supported by testimony already in the public record. In fact, much of the article confirms theories developed from this evidence gleaned over the years. Is this the report that you're talking about?
So there's just a point of clarification. I think these guys got most of it right, but there's two things. At the end of the Trump administration, we created a binder of other Russiagate docs, other stuff that just hadn't been declassified that the deep state prevented Devin and I from putting out. So there's a stack of stuff over there, okay? Separate and apart from that is the report, a 17-page report that Devin Nunes and I, Russiagate team, did on Brennan's ICA. Meaning we investigated it, we took it apart, we spoke to people behind it, we made findings based on actual intelligence and called out corruption. That report is sitting, last I checked, at the CIA and has not been released or declassified in any way. We want both of those things out. And I don't know how we're going to do it, even though President Trump already declassified this, but the binder in question is sitting at DOJ per public reporting that NARA returned it to DOJ. So this wild goose chase that people are looking for the binder is totally misleading, in my opinion.